Tonight I would like to speak about habit in the martial arts. I am 78 years old. However, the first 19 years I did not understand what my father had tried to teach me. But after I went to college, I began to understand. Since then, I would always get up at 4 a.m. in the morning for daybreak key class with meditation. My alarm clock has always been set for 4 a.m. Most of the time, I am up before my alarm clock rings. However, even when my alarm clock wakes me up, I automatically reach out and turn up the bean-sized tiny small button to shut off the alarm clock. My finger goes directly to it, even in the darkness, half dozing. Isn't it amazing? How can I directly hit the button in the dark, half asleep? It is because I have been using the alarm clock for more than almost 60 years. It had become a habit. Aristotle said, excellence is not an act. Excellence is a habit. I believe you also have experienced this. Perhaps you go to the washroom at midnight, and often after you are finished, you automatically flush the toilet without thinking. It is because it's a long time accustomed act. Action that is unconscious is an excellent act from habit. You learn Hapkido skills from instructors. A very fine student practices the same technique over and over again, maybe over 100 times until they can perform it unconsciously. However, according to my experience, many students repeat a skill only a few times and then are waiting to learn even more new skills. As a matter of fact, I feel regret and sorry about such students. A friend of mine who is a professional singer and guitar player once told me he needed to practice a song 250 times before it was introduced to public. The most famous Japanese samurai in the 17th century, he could dominate all other martial artists. Miyamoto Musashi said he practiced one skill 2,000 times before a demonstration. There was a very famous Chinese teacher. One day, a very rich politician took his son to the teacher. He asked him to teach his son Chinese characters. The basic alphabet of Chinese is 1,000 letters, which takes about 3 months to finish in general. The father visited 3 months later. He was expecting his son to have finished the 1,000 letters, but he had only finished a couple hundred letters. The father was disappointed and upset. The father returned 6 months later, finding his son still had not learned much more. So the father was upset and said to the teacher, "The learning is too slow. I will take my son away from you, and I will teach my son myself in person." After he brought his son home and started teaching, he first gave his son Confucian and Mencius philosophical books, which were considered kind of difficult to read and understand. But his son immediately understood everything. Later, the father showed his son Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu, which was one of the highest level books. The son could understand it perfectly. The father was so surprised. How in the world did your teacher teach you? He asked his son. Because I am very astonished. You seem to understand everything, even the books that you never learned. The son explained how his teacher taught him. For example, the very first letter of the 1,000 letters, phonetically, Chang means heaven, heaven, heaven. The teacher taught him to read the letter, but also taught the meaning, philosophical, and religious implications of the word. The teacher not only taught the letter on how to read and write, but he taught everything about each letter, even physiological implications. Listening to his son explain, the father realized he had made a big mistake, slapping his own knee. He took his son back to the teacher and begged, "Would you please continue teaching my son?" But the teacher refused his proposal, saying, "Your son's education has been ruined." Ladies and gentlemen, I believe you know who Pablo Casals is. He is a Spanish cellist in the 20th century, but they say throughout all his story, he is the best cellist. He is considered a saint of cello. He started to study cello from 7 or 8 years old. And at the age of 14, he had a national cello concert in Barcelona, Spain. He was also invited by Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th American president, to Carnegie Hall. He died in 1973 at 27 years old. Until his death, he never missed his cello practice, over 10 hours a day. One day, a news reporter questioned him. It was a couple years before he died. Questioned, "Almost 90 years you have been practicing cello, and your performance is absolutely perfect. How come you still practice?" At that time, Mr. Casals was almost 95 years old. He replied, "Whenever I practice, I feel my skills are improved a little more." You understand?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what you do it repeatedly over and over. Please practice repeatedly over and over again. I like to dare say, if you strive up to a transcendence level, you will transcend the ordinary, and you will be able to carry out this transcendence into many other fields. Automatically, you will understand other fields of importance. Finally, I would like to quote a samurai maxim. He who has mastered an art will reveal it in his every action. Thank you very much.